Hi everybody, in today's video I'm going to teach you how to make beef carnitas in the crock pot. It's such a simple recipe that only takes a little bit of prep time, and then you allow it to slow cook all day, and then by evening you have a really wonderful, delicious, very tasteful meal that your whole family will love, because my whole family loves this. So I actually had a request this morning from my son to make these, so that's why I'm making these today. So let me go over what you need first. First, you're going to need a chuck roast. Now, I like to buy the certified Angus beef boneless English roast. Now, this is an English roast is very similar to a chuck roast. It all depends on the type of cut. So I use this. The recipe I have over on Gathered in the Kitchen, I typically call for about a 4-pound roast. That is sometimes hard to find. So this one is 2.17 and this one is 2.46. So of course it's a little over, but I like to have leftovers. So this works out great. And besides, you have to take into account the fat. My family absolutely refuses to eat the fat on the meat. So by the time this all cooks down and I remove the fat, I have about 4 pounds of meat that I can serve everybody. And then I have some poblano peppers. These are typically found over near the green peppers. Sometimes they are a little hard to find. You may have to go to a smaller grocer to find them. Then I have some sweet onions. I always prefer to cook with sweet onions. We used to live in Georgia, so I got really accustomed to this Vidalia onions. So now whenever I buy an onion, rather than buying a plain yellow onion, I always buy sweet. It just gives it a great flavor. Then we need a little bit of hot sauce. I'm going to use Cholula. In the recipe over on the blog, I did use Texas Pete. Just use whatever you prefer. I have this on hand, and our taste buds, for my family, they've changed a little bit. We really love Cholula. Then I have some cayenne powder, some garlic powder, and some chili powder. And then, of course, some salt. So the very first step here is to get these chuck roasts seared up on the stove. So let's move on over there, and then we'll get everything moved over to the crock pot. Okay, so I'm over here at my stove, and the very first thing you want to make sure you have is a deep enough skillet that will hold your chuck roast. So I have a big heavy cast iron pot here. I'm going to get some olive oil and drizzle it all over my skillet. And while this is heating up right now, but I'm only going to cook one of these roasts at a time. So I'm going to open one up and place it in. Let me throw this away. Okay, and now this will sizzle a lot and spread a lot of grease. So I always recommend using a screen when you're searing roasts. This will save your kitchen from a lot of mess. So just place this on here. I like to cook this at about a medium. And then you know it's done when each side of the roast has like a nice caramelized crispy layer on them. You won't cook this roast all the way through, and that's totally fine. That will finish cooking in the crock pot. But what this does is this helps us start the process of cooking everything and makes it extra tender when it is cooking in the crock pot. So we're gonna let this go. Okay, so this side of the roast is ready to be flipped over. What I'm going to do first is turn the heat down. It's always important to do that because it will slow the temperature, and then you'll have less popping from the grease. So, remove my screen. I always like to hold it so it protects my face. And then get a good hold on this roast. Let me show you what this looks like a little bit. Very heavy. You can see how nice and crispy looking it is. I'm going to flip it over. There we go. And just put it on that side, cover it back up, and turn the temperature back up to medium. Alright, while our meat is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start dicing up our onions. So again, I'm using 2 onions, and these are sweet onions. I'm just going to dice them into kind of larger chunks, about bite-sized chunks. So you don't want a huge piece in your taco or carnita once you get these all cooked up. So just about a bite size. Okay. And that's my dog barking outside. He wanted to go outside, now he wants to come back in. Let me let him in. Okay, we're gonna just give these a nice big rough top. Now it's time for our poblano peppers. I've gone ahead and washed these already. Now a poblano is a little bit spicy, but not too bad. Definitely not like a jalapeno. It's definitely mild. So what I like to do is I cut off the top and then I just with my fingers pull out the seeds and just card those. And then I'm going to cut this in half. And then so the size of this cut in half will be the perfect size for throwing in the crock pot. What I'm going to do is just cut them into about 1/2 inch strips. I'm going to check this roast. That roast is looking good. I'm going to get that one thrown into the crock pot and start searing up the second roast. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Turn my heat down again. Remove my screen. We're just going to transfer this to the crock pot. I'm going to put a little more oil for the second one. Cover it with the screen and turn it back up to medium. Now I'll start on the second poblano. Slide that over, cut the top off, take the seeds out. Go ahead and get rid of these. Typically I save the scraps from my vegetables and give them to our chickens or put them in the compost, but it's so cold out there right now. There's so much snow that it's really not doing any good, and I don't think the chickens would totally love poblano peppers. So just get these sliced up. All right. My dog really wants to go outside and play. He's the only one who loves the cold. It's in the negatives right now. So that's why we are making a very nice, warm, and cozy meal. And he wants to go outside and play. Alright, so we're going to get these moved a little closer. And start checking this. So in the crock pot, we do put a couple cups of water. We put 2 cups of water. So let me go ahead and get that measured out. And I just like to go ahead and put the water in after I put all of the roast in, because otherwise once you put the roast in, it will splash because it's heavy and it always falls out of the tongs. So that's just how I like to do this. Then let me get my measuring teaspoon, because we are going to do, let me check my recipe. Okay, we're going to do 1 teaspoon of each. 1 of chili powder, and I'm just going to go ahead and mix this right into the water because it makes it easy to disperse. And make sure you get all of your seasonings spread throughout everything rather than like a clump of garlic that doesn't dissolve. So 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, chili powder, and cayenne powder. Okay. And 1 teaspoon of salt. You can grab a whisk. Or a fork will actually do. Let's get this all stirred up. Now on my recipe, I do call for pepper as well as 5 ounces of hot sauce. I'm not going to do 5 ounces. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just do about, sometimes my kids like it spicy, sometimes they don't. I'm going to go about a 1/4 cup. This is going to take a while, so I'm not going to fill it all the way. Okay, so I have a little over 1/8 of a cup in here. I'm going to get that put in. Try to get everything out with the water to pull it out. I'll get the pepper. We'll do a little bit of pepper. So typically I call for 2 teaspoons of pepper. I'm just going to do 1 today. There we go. Give this a stir, and I'm going to come back and check on this roast, see if it's ready to flip over. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add this second roast. Crockpot, so you can see how nice and tender looking this is. It's nice and seared. So what I'm going to do now is start adding all of the poblano peppers and the onions. I'm just going to scatter them all throughout. Okay. Couple last onions, and now I'm going to take this water seasoned mixture we made and just pour it all over. Everything out. Okay. Now I'm just going to put the lid on, tighten it down, and I already have it turned to high. I'm going to let this cook all day until this evening when we're ready to serve it up. All right, our carnitas have been cooking all day. They are ready to eat. I went ahead and started shredding the meat about an hour ago. This just helps make sure all of the pieces have a lot of flavor in them. So this is what it looks like. Nice and shredded, extra delicious. And the way I serve these up is I heat up some oil in a skillet, and then I heat up corn tortillas. I'm using yellow. You can see them right here. And then I also use some queso fresco cheese. It's a crumbling Mexican cheese. It's super good. And then oddly, I like radishes on mine. So I use a little mandolin that I have here, and I just put some slices of radish on top of everything. So let me go ahead and show you guys how I plate these up, along with our Mexican rice that I just made. Okay, let's go ahead and get this plated up. So, I have my corn tortillas. They are nice and crispy. Ooh, they are pretty. That one got a little done. I'm going to turn my heat down. Put some more tortillas up there. Okay. I'll get some meat. And definitely make sure you get some of the poblanos and the onions. That adds to the delicious flavor. Okay. These look good. Okay. Now, let me go ahead and get my rice. Slide that over. this one's mine. Okay, now, oh, I'll have to do it up here. I'm gonna take my mandolin here and just do a couple slices of radishes on each carnita. Radishes are actually, they kind of have a little bit of a spice to them and a great crunch. So it seems like a very odd ingredient to include on a carnita, but I'm telling you, it's amazing. Go ahead and get a fork here to get our crumbly cheese, queso fresco, and just break this up, put it all over. And the cheese will help it if the carnita seems a little spicy. It's really not, but this will cut the spice. Think of like drinking a glass of milk after you have something spicy. All right. All right, here is everything. So here's our carnitas and our homemade Mexican rice. This is extra delicious, and my kids are all standing around waiting until I hand this plate over. They're so excited because they're starving. So thanks so much for cooking along with me today. I hope you enjoyed all these recipes, and make sure you head on over to gatheredinthekitchen.com for lots of family-friendly recipes that you and all of your guests will love. Happy cooking!